So we're now starting the 5th juz'. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم والمحصنات من النساء إلا ما ملكت أيمانكم. And forbidden for you are the muhsanat women, the married women, except those whom your right hands possess through slavery. وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. And forbidden for you are the muhsanat women. That means here the married women. Now you're going to see, inshallah ta'ala, that the word muhsanat will come in the Quran with some different meanings. How did we say here, forbidden for you? Yani, the ayah starts, and the muhsanat amongst the women. إِلَّا مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ. Except those whom your right hands possess through slavery. Those whom your right hands possess through slavery. That means, except those women whom you own. Even if they had husbands in the land of blasphemy, according to Jalalain. Even if they had husbands in the land of blasphemy, because their slavery is going to break their marriage. This means if there were a married non-Muslim woman, and then the Muslims went to war, and then she got captured, then she's going to become enslaved by the mere capture. This slavery will break her marriage contract. Then she's going to get distributed. She's not going to be owned by who captured her per se. Then she's going to get distributed as per the rules of distributing the spoils of war. So she comes into possession of a Muslim man, then she will be lawful for him after a menstrual cycle. That's called istibra. It's not called iddah. They're not forbidden for you, but not the married ones though. Even the married slave women of yours are forbidden for you. Because it looks like it's saying, forbidden for you are the married women, except, one might think it's saying, except the married women that you own, who are slaves. They're not forbidden for you. But if you do have a married slave woman, she is forbidden for you, because she's only lawful for her husband. So, except those whom your right hands possess through slavery, and they're not married, they are lawful for you. After the istibra waiting period. After the istibra, that means you got a new slave woman. You cannot be with her immediately. You have to let her experience a menstrual cycle before she's lawful for you. If a man gets a new slave woman, she has to go through a menstrual cycle before she's lawful for him. Kitab Allahi alaykum. What has been deemed lawful or unlawful in these verses is ordained as Allah's ordinance upon you. وَأُحِلَّ لَكُم مَّا وَرَاءَ ذَلِكُمْ أَن تَبْتَغُوا بِأَمْوَالِكُمْ. And lawful for you are all women beyond those. Yani, your maharim, your ineligible relatives are unlawful for you. We covered that in previous ayat. And that's going to be for 3 reasons also, that they're maharim. A woman is going to be your mahram, and vice versa. A man's going to be a woman's mahram. For 3 reasons. Either because of blood relation, or because of marriage. So they're going to be some sort of in-law, or because of nursing, breastfeeding, and not because of adoption. Adoption's not valid. Inshallah, we'll cover that in Surat Al-Ahzab if Allah enables us. So those are the 3 reasons women would be mahram for a man in the first place. And Out of those three reasons, there's 5 categories of women. These 5 categories are across these 3 reasons. What are those 5 categories? Mother, daughter, sister, aunt, and niece. So we covered that. So we're saying here, the mother, the woman who gave birth to you, you can't marry her. And the woman who gave birth to her or your father, you can't marry her. And the woman whom your father married, you can't marry her, or your grandfather married. And and your wife's mother, you can't marry her. And the woman who nursed you, you can't marry her. All of those are mothers. And then you have different kinds of sisters, different kinds of daughters, like the girl that you gave birth to, or the girl that your wife nursed, or your son's wife. All of these are daughters. So, talking about blood relation, or marriage, or nursing. And we're talking about mothers, sisters, yani mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, and nieces. So all of those are forbidden for you. And then this ayah tells us, and also married women are forbidden for you. You can't marry a woman who's already married or have her some other way, but not your slave women, even if they were married, but the slavery is going to break their marriage contract. And if they are unmarried slave women, yani if they are slave women who are married, not that they were free married women who became slaves, free married women who became slaves, that means they're not Muslims. For that to even happen, for them to become slaves, means they're not Muslims already. Free married women who became slaves, their slavery is going to break their marriage contract. And then they become lawful for their male owner after a menstrual cycle. If they're married slave women, they're also still not lawful. And then وَأُحِلَّ لَكُم مَّا وَرَاءَ ذَلِكُمْ, and lawful for you are all women beyond those. But we still need to consider their religion. All women beyond those, if they are Muslims or Christians or Jews. Muslim women or Christian women or Jewish women, and you can't marry other than that. وَأُحِلَّ لَكُم مَّا وَرَاءَ ذَلِكُمْ أن تبتغوا بأموالكم محصنين غير مسافحين. And lawful for you are all women beyond those for you to seek them with your properties. Yani, for you to use the money you have as dowries to marry those women while being chaste, not as fornicators. Said, what does while being chaste exactly mean? Yani, it means pursue those women while being chaste. Chaste means not getting involved in lewd activities. Now, it doesn't mean it's haram to marry a fornicator. It means pursue those women chastely, as chaste men. Be chaste men pursuing those women. So, like, how would you do it, for example? Like, you want to marry a woman, and let's say she wants to marry you. So then you won't be alone with her, and maybe she wants to hug you, for example, because she's ignorant. Maybe a Muslim man is thinking about marrying a Christian or Jewish woman. She doesn't know it's haram, and then she wants to hug him. So he refrains, tells her we can't do that. Not before we do a marriage contract. فما استطعتم به منهن فآتوهن أجورهن فريضة. So what women whom you have enjoyed by consummating the marriage, yani any women you have enjoyed by consummating the marriage, give them their dowries compulsorily, yani as an obligation. Give them their dowries as an obligation. If you consummate the marriage, then the dowry becomes binding. ولا جناح عليكم فيما تراضيتم به ولا جناح عليكم فيما تراضيتم به من بعد الفريضة. And there is no blame on you, you men and those women, about that change to the dowry to which you mutually agree after the obligation. It means you can do a settlement and alter the conditions of the dowry if you agree to that. Inna Allah kana aliman hakima. Surely Allah is knowing, yani knower of all creations before they are created, and wise about what he made obligatory in marriage. ومن لم يستطع منكم طولا أن ينكح المحصنات المؤمنات. And whoever among you lacks wealth to marry muhsanat, chaste and free believing women. Al-muhsanat al-mu'minat, chaste and free believing women. But their being chaste is not a condition for marrying them. Any of you who lacks the funds, the wealth to marry muhsanat, chaste and free, that's what muhsanat here means, chaste and free, believing women. فَمِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ مِنْ فَتَيَاتِكُمُ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. Then let him marry of those whom your right hands own from among your believing maidens. Any one of you who lacks the wealth to marry the muhsanat who are mu'minat. Here, muhsanat means chaste and free. What did it mean previously? Al-muhsanat, the first time we read this word, it meant the married women in particular. Now it means the chaste and free women. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ مِنْكُمْ طَوْلًا أَنْ يَنْكِحَ الْمُحْصَنَاتِ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ فَمِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ مِنْ فَتَيَاتِكُمُ الْمُؤْمِنَاتِ. Then let him marry of those whom your right hands own from among your believing maidens. Meaning, any man who cannot marry a free woman, he's unable, but he needs to get married, then he has an excuse to marry a slave woman. So if you have a slave woman, give her in marriage to this one who's unable to marry a free woman. But if he were able to marry a free woman, fundamentally, then it's not permissible for him to marry a slave woman. Why? Because his child will be born as a slave. So this ayah doesn't mean marry your own slave woman. It's not valid to marry your own slave woman. You cannot own your wife because you own your slave. Your slave is money and property. You cannot own your wife, so you can't be married to your slave woman. If you had a slave woman that you wanted to marry, then free her and then marry her. So this is not an evidence that a man could marry his own slave woman. Rather, it means let the one who has a slave woman give her in marriage to the one who cannot marry a free woman. He's unable to marry a free woman. And for your information, it's not a condition for the master to be trustworthy for him to be able to give his slave woman away in marriage. He can give his slave woman away in marriage even if he's a major sinner, unlike the father. The father cannot give his daughter away in marriage if he's a major sinner. وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِإِيمَانِكُمْ بَعْضُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْضٍ. And suffice with what faith appears from those slave women. Yani, those are believing slave women. then suffice with them being believers like any other believer, because Allah knows best about your faith. For many, a slave woman is better to Allah than a free woman. A free woman's not going to be better than a slave woman just because she's a free woman. So, Wallahu a'lamu bi imanikum. Allah knows best about your faith. Suffice with what faith appears from those slave women. For many, a slave woman is better to Allah than a free woman. And that is a signal to our taking others as believers at face value. That's an obligation. For someone who you believe he's a Muslim, like if someone presents himself to you as a Muslim, like he dresses like a Muslim and you met him, he or she. So then you said, this is a Muslim, and you believed that this person was a Muslim. Then you're not going to deem this person as a kafir. You're just going to go by face value here and say, this is a Muslim. Or a person says to you, I'm a Muslim, even if you had no like outside indication. Dresses like any normal person, doesn't have Islamic attire per se. And that person says to you, I'm a Muslim, and you believe this person. Then, because you believe that this person is a Muslim, then after that, you're not going to deem him as a kafir, and you're just going to go by face value that this is a Muslim. Or, you hear a person say the Shahada actually. Now you're obligated to believe that, this person is a Muslim. So then you're going to go by that, and you're not going to call that person a kafir after that. So, in this ayah is a signal to our obligation of taking people as Muslims, deeming people as Muslims and believers at face value. At-Tabari says that this ayah means if those slave women outwardly show faith, then suffice with that. And Nasafi says that the slave woman being a believer is only a recommendation to the Hanafis. بَعْضُكُم مِّن بَعْضٍ. Each of you men is as those slave women are, because you share the same religion. So translating the words of this part of the ayah literally comes out as, some of you are from the other. بَعْضُكُم مِّن بَعْضٍ. So the other here means the women. فَانكِحُوهُنَّ بِإِذْنِ أَهْلِهِنَّ. So marry them with the permission of their folk. Their folk here means their masters. So we're talking about marrying slave women. وَآتُوهُنَّ أُجُورَهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And give them their dowries equitably without procrastination or reduction. Yani, don't be tight-fisted and delay paying them their dowries. And don't shortchange them. مُحْصَنَاتٍ غَيْرَ مُسَافِحَاتٍ. While they are chaste, not fornicating. وَلَا مُتَّخِذَاتِ أَخْدَانٍ. Nor while taking secret lovers. Yani, nor do they have boyfriends, or nor are they mistresses having secret lovers. That's not a condition, though. Their chastity is not a condition for the marriage. فَإِذَا أُحْصِنَّ فَإِنْ أَتَيْنَ بِفَاحِشَةٍ فَعَلَيْهِنَّ نِصْفُ مَا عَلَى الْمُحْصَنَاتِ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ. And when the slave women become muhsanat, now here's a third meaning for muhsanat. When they become muhsanat means they have sexual intercourse within a valid marriage. So first time it meant married women. Second time it meant free and chaste women. Now here's the third time it means they had sexual intercourse within a valid marriage. When the slave women become muhsanat, فَإِذَا أُحْصِنَّ فَإِنْ أَتَيْنَ بِفَاحِشَةٍ. Then if they approach the indecency of fornication after that, فَعَلَيْهِنَّ نِصْفُ مَا عَلَى الْمُحْصَنَاتِ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ. Then upon them, then they deserve half of what is inflicted upon the muhsanat, here the free women, who have not had sexual intercourse within a valid marriage, concerning punishment. What's that? 50 lashes and exile for half a year. So, as you can see here, the word muhsanat is not translated immediately. We just transcribe the word here and then put the meaning in parentheses. That's important. This is similar to what we took in Surat Al-Imran in the 7th ayah, because you can recite the ayah in two ways. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ. Stop. وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ, etc. وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ يَقُولُونَ, etc. And then there's the other recitation. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ. Then you stop. So, what does ta'wil mean here? Ta'wil. If you recite it one way, ta'wil means one thing. If you recite it another way, ta'wil means another thing. So you need to be mindful how you're going to translate that, because you need to observe the recitations. So then you might want to just write the word ta'wil, write it out in English letters. Ta'wil, and other places too, where you need to be mindful of the tafsir. Even other places like when we say yad of Allah, we don't translate. We say yad or ayn or wajh or istiwa. And there's other places in the Quran, and it doesn't have to be something pertaining to the attributes of Allah only. Some spots that the English is not going to work, or another language is not going to work. So you need to do something. So that's what was done here. Muhsanat, written out each time. And then whatever it means in each spot is explained in parentheses. فَإِذَا أُحْصِنَّ فَإِنْ أَتَيْنَ بِفَاحِشَةٍ فَعَلَيْهِنَّ نِصْفُ مَا عَلَى الْمُحْصَنَاتِ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ. And when the slave women become muhsanat, they have sexual intercourse within a valid marriage, then if they approach the indecency of fornication after that, then upon them is, then they deserve half of what is inflicted upon the muhsanat, meaning the free women. The free women, though, who are not what? Who are not muhsanat, with this meaning, who did not have sexual intercourse within a valid marriage. What would their punishment be, those free women? 100 lashes and being banished from the town for a year. For the slave women, they get 100 lashes. Sorry. For the slave women, they get 50 lashes and banished from the town for half a year. In all circumstances, though. So, remember, for someone who's free, male or female, the free muhsan male and the free muhsana or muhsan female, meaning those who had sexual intercourse within a valid marriage contract, if they commit zina after being muhsan, then they deserve to be stoned to death. If the male or female who's free is not muhsan, they commit zina, then they deserve to be lashed with 100 lashes and banished for a year. As for the slave, they deserve half of the punishment of the free. Slave deserves half the punishment of someone free. That's not what kuffar do, though. Kafir will punish a slave even more than he punishes a free person. However, there's no way to halfway kill a person. So then, stoning to death does not apply to slaves. And the only punishment applicable to slaves here is being lashed and banished. ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ خَشِيَ الْعَنَةَ مِنْكُمْ. That permission to marry slave women is for who fears the difficulty. The difficulty means the sin, for who fears the sin, which is specifically fornication. Or it means all sins, or the difficulty here means the capital punishment. He fears execution. So this means when you have the excuse, then you can marry slave women. وَأَن تَصْبِرُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And for you to abstain from marrying slave women is better for you. وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And Allah is forgiving, merciful. Why is it better to abstain from marrying slave women? Because it is humiliating, and because one's children would be born as slaves. When it says it's humiliating, that's an indication for you that social status is recognized in Islam. There's other indications too.
نعم شيخ ممكن repeat that about the social status.
Yeah, to say that you should refrain from marrying slave women because that's humiliating. That one's wife is a slave woman, that's humiliating. This is an indication for you that Islam does recognize social status amongst the people, and Islam recognizes one's honor. Wallahu ghafurur rahim. And Allah is forgiving, merciful. يريد الله ليبين لكم. Allah wills to clarify for you the laws of your religion and your welfare. Here, yurid means yuhibbu wa yarda. Yuhibbu wa yarda. This is one of the spots where the will of Allah means something other than that attribute by which He creates, making something one way or another way, making all possibilities one way or another way. Will here doesn't mean that. Will here means mahabbah and rida, acceptance. So, irada, will, came in the Quran with two meanings for God. Will for God came in the Quran with two meanings. Usually, when we learn like the obligatory knowledge, we learn the meaning of the will, that's His eternal and everlasting attribute by which He specifies the possibilities with one way or another way, with having some attributes, some possible attributes or other possible attributes. But also, irada, will, came in the Quran about God with another meaning, which is mahabbah and rida, acceptance. Like here. That's why someone might translate this as once. It has the meaning of acceptance, not desire. يريد الله ليبين لكم. One might say, Allah wants to clarify for you the laws of your religion and your welfare. وَيَهْدِيَكُمْ سُنَنَ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. And to guide you to the ways of legalizing and illegalizing, as practiced by those prophets and pious before you. وَيَتُوبَ عَلَيْكُمْ. And to forgive you. وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ. And Allah is knowledgeable about the welfare of His slaves, wise about what He mandated. وَاللَّهُ يُرِيدُ أَن يَتُوبَ عَلَيْكُمْ. Allah wills to forgive you. Same thing here about the will. It means mahabbah and rida. So that's why someone might translate it as Allah wants to forgive you, but it doesn't mean a desire. وَيُرِيدُ الَّذِينَ يَتَّبِعُونَ الشَّهَوَاتِ أَن تَمِيلُوا مَيْلًا عَظِيمًا. And those who follow the lusts want you to deviate from the truth with a great deviation by committing what is forbidden. And then you would be like them. They want you to be like them. They want you to do all the bad things they do. It was said that this refers to the Jews. They used to legalize marrying nieces. When Allah revealed the prohibition of that, they said to the Muslims, you legalize marrying the cousins, although the aunts are illegal. So legalize the nieces. So they wanted the believers to commit incest like they did. So it said this is what this ayah is about. وَيُرِيدُ الَّذِينَ يَتَّبِعُونَ الشَّهَوَاتِ أَن تَمِيلُوا مَيْلًا عَظِيمًا. And those Jews, according to that, who follow the lusts want you to deviate a great deviation by committing what is forbidden and then being like them. يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ أَن يُخَفِّفَ عَنكُمْ. Allah wills to facilitate for you. Same meaning of will here. The meaning of mahabbah and rida, acceptance. Someone might say, Allah wants to facilitate for you. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. And man was created weak. So it is difficult for him to resist his desires. And it is difficult for him to constantly adhere to the obedience. Yani, that's the challenge that Allah put in us. Allah Ta'ala made us, and this is general, of course, He made us weak creatures, liable to follow our desires and inclinations. And He also challenged us with some hostile, invisible beings who are genies. If you want to call them devils, you can call them devils. But the type of thing they are is genies. And they whisper to the human being and they tempt him and they do whatever else they do. He has to fight them and he has to fight himself too. Subhanallah. Let's stop there then. So now the next ayat are gonna be talking about money. So we'll leave it there. We just talked about marrying slave women mostly. You have any question I can answer for you?
السلام عليكم شهر.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
بارك الله فيكم.
آمين وفيكم.
So as far as the social status in Islam, what is it used for? Because the one who's most accepted to Allah is the one who's taqi, right?
Well, social status here is going to be like he might be a ruler, or he might be a commoner, he might be a farmer, he might be something like that. He might be a shoemaker, he might be a trader. So there's going to be levels there. Like, for example, didn't we learn that the father and the grandfather can give the virgin girl in marriage without her approval, meaning without even going to her? They can just do the marriage contract. They have the authority to do the marriage contract for her without even asking her. Yes, that's true. But aren't there conditions like that he's mukafi, like that he's suitable for her, he's a match for her? Like how? Like you need to consider, is she a daughter of a caliph, for example? Is she a daughter of a trash man? Or I'll give you another example. Didn't we learn that if you don't agree about the dowry, you marry her, you still got to give her a dowry. So then what does she get? She gets what a woman like her gets. A woman like her. So same thing. What does that mean? It means what do women like her take? So you're going to consider her age, her beauty, her knowledge, all sorts of things.
Barakallah fikum.
Ameen wa fikum. And some other things like that. Like, didn't we learn that trustworthy, a trustworthy Muslim means he doesn't do major sins, he's not a major sinner, His small sins are not more than his good deeds, and he behaves according to the manners of the good people of his status. He behaves like the good people of his class, the religious people of his class. Ameen wa iyyakum. Like if he's a teacher, yeah, like a scholar, for example. So he has certain status amongst the people. Yeah, so if he's a scholar, he doesn't eat in the market. He doesn't eat like walking around in the market eating if he's a scholar. If he's not amongst the people of the market, if he's not amongst the people of the market, because not befitting of his class, his status. If somebody who's not a scholar might eat in the market, and then it's not going to be held against him as far as his virtue is concerned.
Another question, Sheikh.
Yes.
So when a person commits zina, the one that deserves to be stoned to death,
Yes.
and that punishment is performed by the Khalif, right? So now at this time,
Yeah, under his supervision. When we say that punishment is carried out by the caliph, means under his supervision. Like he forwards it to a governor or a judge, and whoever's participating in the stoning is going to participate.
Yeah. So we know at this time we don't have a caliph. So if a person is in that situation, he repents, and is that repentance? Because the punishment takes care of the sinning, right? If the person is punished by death, then that sin is taken care of, right?
That's true. If the person is punished properly, then he will not be punished for it in the afterlife.
Yeah, but at this time when there is no such punishment, how does a person can get rid of the sin? Is that
possible? It's enough for him to repent, even if he just repents without being punished. If he repents fulfilling the integrals of the repentance, then this will erase his sin also. But that doesn't erase his deserving punishment. Will erase the sin.
Yeah.
If he repents and then the caliph, if it's confirmed for the caliph, despite that he repented, he'll still be punished.
Barakallah.
Ameen wa fiq. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك